Alright YouTube, this is Ken, Ruckus Spring again. I had an idea of a different way to play with shields. This is just an example. I'm gonna use it in a game, but I just wanted to explain a couple things here. What my idea is gonna be. Now I don't know if this is just my idea or if somebody already played like this or whatever, but it just occurred to me that it'd be cool to add some realism to the shields. So I'm sure you've all heard of the difference. It's kind of an ongoing discussion, and I think there's different answers, and there's probably a real answer from the original Star Trek series, but I don't know. But I know that they call shields. Sometimes they call them deflectors, but they also use screens. They call them defensive screens. So I had an idea. Like I said, I don't know if this is my own idea or just if someone's already done this. I don't know, but I was thinking about last night after the fourth time both Enterprises got killed by the Klingons. But anyways, so my idea is this: to have, like, for example, the Enterprise D class has 4 shields. Okay, now you can put them in this configuration or this configuration. Okay, and the way that works is, in order to change configurations of your shields, you would have to use an action. Okay, but anyways, I'll talk about that later. For now, basically my idea is if a shield gets hit, so for example, you roll a dice, you still do your regular evade dice and all that. So say somebody has a 3 attack, right? And they roll it, and then, okay, there's 2 hits, okay? Now depending on the location of the ship, let's just say it's the Groth over here, firing from this angle, okay? So these 2 hits, one would take out the shield on this corner right here, and then what this is this is actually a defensive screen, and then this hit would absorb and take out the defensive screen. Once the defensive screen is gone, it's basically gone, okay? You can't repair it or whatever. So nothing would actually get through the hole in that case, okay? Now you ask yourself, well, why the different configurations? Well, I had an idea like this too. So if he was in a different configuration, say he was in this configuration right here, okay, and same scenario, he rolls the 3 and he gets in. Let's just pretend he didn't evade anything, okay? So he rolled and he got a blank, okay? So now in this scenario, these 2 shots coming in this corner here would get absorbed by each one of these shields. So basically the shields would go down, the deflectors would still be up, or excuse me, I keep calling them deflectors. The defensive screens would still be up, okay? So it'd be a configuration like that. Now in this scenario, during his turn, if all damage and everything is already settled, he could actually, if he wanted to, flip these 2, so basically diverting power to this quadrant if he wants, and then flip these 2 over like this. Because these are your screens, and these are your shields. Your shields are kind of like universal. If there's a defensive screen in that quadrant still, you can bring those shields up if you need to. Okay, there's that idea. And then my other idea was this: say that same scenario happened, okay, the same scenario happened. Now if you don't want to do that, but you want to provide this could be a separate rule or whatever, that you don't have to actually deflect your shields that way. These shields act as a bubble. around, okay? But they're not as strong, so they only will be able to take the one hit. So basically, if he fires again, and let's just, for example, say one gets through, okay? Or one hits the outer shield, right? Then you're basically saying, okay, well, the whole thing's about, and then you have to take a hit point of the whole defense of the shields. It's your choice if you want to go here or you want to go here. Doesn't matter. That way, if you do get hit in the back, you still have full shields up in the back. It just depends on how you want to play. If you want to play it that way, okay. I know it's a little complicated, and you wouldn't have these markers on the ship. You would actually have on the ship card like this. So basically, this would be these little quadrants here would tell you how the shields are arranged. So you'd have a shield like this, shield like this, shield like this, and a shield like this. So that would represent the ship, okay. And if you want to actually see how that is, boom, just like that, okay. Just an idea I have. Okay, so my next proposal is critical damage. Okay, so for example, the way the old rules are now is the critical damage only damages a shield, right? So they do it by the numbers. You know, you have, this ship has 4 shields. So if you roll, a 3 like this, let's say, right? And this right here wouldn't be any critical damage at all in the normal game, okay? So basically, you would just count 1, 2, 3 shields, and then you're still good. You got 1 shield up. Well, the way I want to do it is when these things hit a shield, the critical damage hits a shield, it actually counts as 2. Okay? So, for example, if you're firing, and let's just get rid of these hits right here. This hit right here would, say it hit in the corner right here. Both of these would be down with just 1 hit. Okay? Because that's your critical. That's a critical shot. Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, if, for example, if another hit comes in, right? Excuse me. If another hit comes in, it would hit this like this. And it doesn't matter which one hits first, it doesn't really matter, okay? So this shield gets hit once, right? So that goes away, and that's the defensive screen still up. And that hit goes away, and then this hit comes in, and then it counts as 2. So basically, this would go away, okay? And then since it's in this quadrant right here, you'd have to take down one of your defensive screens, no matter what. So basically, you're punching through the shield with such force that the shield can only withstand so many hits at a time, is the premise that I'm trying to do here. So now he's only got 2 shields, right? But if you want to do the bubble thing, like I was saying, now he has a bubble around. But since there's no defensive screen here, and say he shoots again, and this will actually hit the shield first, the bubble around, which would take one of these shields down, right? But it wouldn't get through the hole yet. Okay? But if 2 came at the same time, okay, let's do it this way. So 1 would hit the shield, and you can always choose whichever one you want, right? And then once this gets through, it would hit the hole. And then let's reverse that again. Let's say it's a critical hit coming in. Okay, now when the critical hit comes in, it's going to do the same thing as if it's 2 shots. So it hits the outer shield, okay? That shield goes down, or whichever one you want to go down. But then it only does a hull hit. Okay, so it doesn't do critical damage because it wasted part of it on the shield. Instead of just wasting the whole thing, it's getting through the shield because it's a critical hit. And that does happen in the show. Like, you'll see them fire and they still have shields up, but sometimes it'll get through to the hull and damage certain decks, and and casualties and whatnot, and it's kind of neat. So it's just kind of an idea I had. And there's a couple of different ways you can play. I mean, you can make it so that each shield just has double the, like this has 4 shields and 4 defensive screens. If you want to do it that way. But the way I was thinking was these shields are more universal. Like when this shield goes down, okay, on this side, there's still a protective bubble around here. Okay? But once this screen goes down, there's still a bubble, but now the screen's gone away. And the screens can't move unless you do a configuration change which causes an action. That's the way I was going to do it. So basically any damage done, like if you're just doing 1 damage at a time, it's going to take your outer bubble more hits. But if you're doing damage like 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, it's going to really hurt that side. Okay, it's just an idea I had. And this is just this is the first example. It gets a little more complicated when you reduce the shields down. So for example, here's the Uss Enterprise Constitution class. Okay, so you can do this type of configuration, which covers your back quadrant here, and then these share quadrants. So these two share the front, and then they share the back, and then they have the sides. So you can do this type of configuration, or like this type of configuration, as long as they're evenly spaced around. That's the way. That's kind of the premise behind it. And like I said, your defensive screens, when they're red, only protect that area. So again, if you get shot from this side, yeah, your shields are a bubble, okay. But if 2 hits come in, it only takes out that one first hit, and then this is going to take down the defensive screen. The defensive screen will be able to take that hit. Okay. Now once you're like in this configuration, now you're going to start doing hull damage, because this, again, the first shot comes in, it'll take out that bubble, and then you flip one of these over because it's the overall shield damage, right? And then that second one comes in. Now you're gonna start doing damage to hull, only if they're at the same time. Like I said, like say, I know it gets a little confusing, but just pretend this is a bubble, okay? The blue is the bubble. As long as you have a blue, there's a bubble around you, but it only can take 1 hit, okay, at a time. So say one shot gets in, it takes down a defensive bubble, right? Takes down a shield, and then that's it. Nothing else happens. And then the next volley, it could be a different ship or whatever, or a different turn. They fire again, and then this time again they only hit 1 through. Boom. So your hull is still protected. Now, okay, in this configuration, if they shoot the same side, they're going to hit hull all day, even though you have 2 defensive screens still up. Okay, and you can do a reconfiguration again. It costs an action. Like say there's a lot of people over here on your side over here, and you're like, hey man, I want to reconfigure. Now you have these 2. You can do a reconfiguration like this, and I'm going to explain that later when there's only 2 screens up. Okay, so now there's your reconfiguration if you want to do that, and that way you can take 1 hit. Now remember, your shields are down. You only have defensive screens now. Okay, and then if you have a crew that can repair your shields, obviously you would flip one of these over, and then you have that bubble again, and that, you know, from that side. So it's pretty interesting. Obviously, if you're playing, it's going to play a bigger role in the direction that you're going and where your shields are at. If you obviously want your shields up to protect your defensive screens, okay? Because like I said, they're going to take more hits like that. So yeah, so it's just an idea I had. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'll probably try it out here, and like I said, there's probably different problems I'm going to run into. Oh, I did want to discuss the cloaking with this. Okay, when you cloak, so this guy's got 3 shields, right? Same thing when you cloak. If you cloak, these are going to flip over. You're going to disable your shields, but you still have defensive screens. So yeah, a lot of people might think, oh, this is cheating. You know, there's no such thing as defensive screens with cloaking, but I wanted to make it fair. So you're gonna have defensive screens still, but now they're more vulnerable because now you have no shields. You're still cloaked, but if you get shot and something hits you and takes you out, and then yeah, it's gonna tear up your screens first, and then once the screens go away, you know you can't have those shields in that spot anymore. So, and I haven't really decided about the defensive bubble, like, because I just realized that this is probably the same thing. Like, okay, if you want to make it simpler, let's just say the ship is not cloaked, right? It's got its full shields up, all 3 shields and defensive screens. Okay, now a shot comes in, right? Oops, sorry. A shot comes in and takes the shield down. Okay. Now I was saying you could flip these over without action or whatever, but that would be the same thing if there's a defensive bubble. So, I mean, the way you could do it is if we wanted to have it, if we wanted to make it the defensive bubble, like maybe, yeah, we could do it that way, to where it's almost like if you're shooting in the same spot with just one shot. How am I gonna do that? It is a little confusing. I'm confusing myself right now. As far as the I do like the defensive bubble idea with the shields. I do like that idea. Because flipping, like say you did flip this over, this is your defensive screen now, right? And then this would be confusing, I think, just flipping this like this, and now there's no shield over here. I don't know about that. I don't know. That would be interesting, and that'd be kind of fun and cool. But the bubble, I guess once this goes down, let's say this screen goes down, this defensive screen, now it's a bubble. Maybe we could do it that way to give like overall hits or overall, you know, because if you think about it, it really doesn't matter if this only takes one hit to flip to a defensive screen like that. Then why would you worry about the bubble? But actually though, it does work, because here's your defensive screen, right? So the defensive screen doesn't move. That makes sense now. So defensive screen is like your inner shell, okay? So that actually makes sense. So once this gets hit, okay? Once this gets hit right here, your defensive screen is now exposed to get destroyed in that area. So it can take one hit, and now when the defensive screen goes away, now there is a bubble around there, but it's only shield. There's no defensive screen on that side. That actually makes sense. So if you were to flip this over, let's say this flips like this, so now your defensive screen is vulnerable right now. If you were to flip this over to divert your shields there, that would now be protected. I like that. That actually makes sense. So, for example, let's do the incoming fire again. So let's say there's two, well no, let's say there's one incoming fire, or one gets through, right? Your evasive dice only, you know, filters out all the other hits. Now one actually gets to your shield, so it takes this out. So that was one hit right there, right? That was one. So it would actually make it better so that it flips this over like this, and now you have to start all over again. The guy that's shooting there, now he has to plink away at that spot, that shield. But if he wanted to be smart, he could swing around and come this way and attack that side. Now what's to say the person couldn't just flip it back over? But we can hash out the rules on that. But I do like that. So basically there's a defensive bubble, and as long as you have a defensive screen, or they call it, yeah, a defense screen, you can adjust your shield accordingly. But once that defensive screen goes down, now there's just a shield bubble. So that means this can only take one hit, and once your whole shields take a hit in that area, that's going to flip over one of your choice. It doesn't matter which one. So you could still plink away one shot at a time and eventually get through. Because once the shield bubble goes down, now they would have to configure their defensive screens in such a way so that it doesn't hit that area now. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'd be interesting to know how it's going to work, because the configuration obviously is going to matter. Because that was what I want to discuss as well. Configuration is if you're shooting and you hit somebody in the corner, let's say you hit somebody in the corner, this shield's gonna take the brunt of it. Whereas if you were in this configuration, like this, let's say we're like that, right? It's gonna actually take. You can choose which one you want. You can choose this one if it was only one hit, or this one if it was one hit. It's your choice in that quadrant of that initial hit. So yeah, I'm gonna play this through and see how it works and see how I like it. If I don't like it, I won't even bother putting it up or recording or anything like that. So alright, thank you.